from our mouth to our anus, we're a pool noodle. And it's not until it gets through our gut lining that it now becomes incorporated to us. So if you've got these heavy metals, these toxins in your gut lining, and you want to detox them, you really need to be taking something that can get into your body. A lot of these diatomaceous earth, that's actually a solution. If that's going to be a solution, just know the solution isn't because it's getting into your system. It's not becoming part of the pool noodle that you are. It's actually just detoxing the tube.
And good afternoon, everyone. With me today, Patty Greer, Chris Burres, C60, EVO, ESS 60. And again, during these times, you're seeing a lot of people really focusing in on taking care of their body in a very precise fashion now because they realize the dangers that exist out there and have existed in these last several years, and are now trying to address some of these issues. So as we move forward today, it's about trying to present some information that could help you, a family member, maybe your neighbor, something that can help enrich our lives and also help us live better quality lives. And again, the whole point is with supply chains doing their thing out there, the choices that you might have for foods, medicines, etc., you are going to have to take far more responsibility for keeping your body in tune moving forward. And that's basically what we're talking about today is just question and answer. And hopefully these types of answers can put you in the right direction, set the breadcrumbs out there. But anyway, thanks for joining today, Chris, Patty, the floor is yours. And if I may, we were talking before the show here. I wanted to throw this one here. This is a very precise question. Any difference between 99.99% and 99.95% purity? You know, we're only talking about 0.04%
Well, it goes to, is there a point of diminishing returns, right? Like, so to get something to be more pure has a significant cost to it. We've decided at the lab that it's probably worth that cost, that it is worth that cost. But I mean, first off, kudos to your audience for even asking this question. Like, you have an intellectually advanced audience who's coming in and saying, hey, 99.99 versus 99.95. The first thing I want to share is there are people, well, just real briefly, right? So we're talking about this molecule. We call this molecule ESS 60. I'm holding up what looks like a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. So a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. Discovered in 85, the scientists who discovered that the molecule won the Nobel Prize in 96. My lab's been manufacturing it since 1991. So one thing I can share with your audience who is aware of C60 is that they would have never heard of C60 if it weren't for me and my business partner, Robert. We've been manufacturing the molecule since 1991. A lot of people in the C60 space, right? And let me kind of define what we say is the difference. C60 is for industrial applications, and there's peer-reviewed published research that proves when you improperly process C60, it's harmful. ESS 60 is C60 that's been processed for safer human consumption. When people start asking questions about 99.99, I know there's some guy who says he's a scientist who's like, oh, 99.99 represents the difference, the 0.01 or the 0.05 is solvents. And that just speaks to his lack of knowledge of what it actually is. 99.99 is the difference is the concentration relative to other fullerenes. So when you manufacture this carbon 60 industrial molecule, you're also making other fullerene molecules. And so this is called a fullerene. Carbon 70 is a fullerene. Carbon 76 is a fullerene. Carbon 70 is more like a rugby ball. By the way, carbon 70 is the next most predominant fullerene molecule. So when you're saying 99.99, that 0.01%, that is 99% carbon 70. It has nothing to do with solvents. Solvents aren't even the discussion point when you're talking about 99.99 versus 99.95. Now, we're currently working on some research to see how that C70 might be impactful, positively impactful in the body. Nobody else is doing research on that. We actually just published a paper with the original researcher. Dr. Fathi Musa is the original research for that paper where the test subjects given our material. We're actually provided the material. Our lab provided the material, and our lab is mentioned in that study way back in 2012. We just published a paper with him, and we're going to be publishing additional papers kind of related to C70. So the 99.99, the difference is actually C70. 99.95, the difference is actually C70. The thing to be concerned about is we created the moniker ESS60 because we saw in the C60 space, this industrial space, people selling products that didn't have enough concentration. And so we knew that customers were going to be going down this wrong path. Whether it's 99.95, if those companies aren't actually getting as much of that, we would call it ESS60 because it's safe for human consumption, in their product, then like what's the point? The 99.99 versus 99.95 doesn't even matter at that point. So we carved off ESS60, elemental safe spheres with 60 atoms. In this case, they happen to be carbon. The concern, if you're at 99.95, is we don't sell that, and you don't know what you're getting. Or we actually do sell 99.95 C60 for industrial applications. We would never put that in a product for human consumption. I hope that wasn't too long and drawn out.
Yeah, and I will say, I'm sure that was from a gold bug because earlier one of their comments was 4 9's fine or 3 9's fine. So, you're talking with one of those kind of minds that understands in precious metals, the purities as well.
What I love is that my partners, without telling me, bought 22 online products. We wanted to see what the market was putting out. And with an open mind, we really wanted to see that every bottle that said 0.8 or 0.6 of avocado oil actually had it. And what it is concentration level. So when we say we've got 0.6 milligrams per milliliters in our avocado oil, if you measure it in an HPLC machine, which we have in our lab, high performance liquid chromatography, you're going to know if it really has 0.6 to 0.65 milligrams per milliliters. So my partners did a test with 22 products, and the one that spends the most on advertising probably is just advertising because they had only 10% of what their label said. And they had 30% of what their label said. And we tested all the other products. Some of them had 0 C60. And most of them were probably not ESS60, which is made for human consumption. That's why when Chris and I got together in 2019, we left the field of industrial grade carbon 60 behind because he knew from a lot of years of experience that the industry is very respectful, but all of a sudden it was bailing off into a lot of people that didn't have the training, that just want to make money. And we don't blame people for wanting to make money. But if you do, then buy the good stuff from our lab and make safe ESS60 combinations. So this is our #1 product. It's mixed in extra virgin olive oil. And I can see that you poured yourself a little beaker full because we like to do a shot at the top of our shows. And the reason is it really helps your brain. So let's say cheers, and anybody out there listening that's got their C60 Evo, go for it and take
I
it
was
as you
pulling
will.
from
Some people, yeah.
Oh, go right ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt. I was pulling from the extra virgin olive oil. And the reason I was doing that is, to take a look at the deep purple color in here. Because when you were having all those samples that you bought, did you notice there was a difference when you dropped it, that some of them were black, jet black in color, and then others, it went along the color spectrum, black versus purple or deep purple here. Not the song, obviously, but the
Yeah,
band.
so and often in olive oil, there's a deep purple, but it really ends up looking like an amber. That's because there's usually a greenish hue to an olive oil or a yellowish hue, and you put purple into yellow, you end up with like a kind of an amber, a murky amber. By the way, I'm going to do my shot real quick. This is 5
Well,
mils
that's
or
how you
one
define that
teaspoon.
color. Okay.
So not a coincidence, we all took the olive oil because it is the strongest. It's also the one that was used in the Nobel Prize study and also in the 2012 Paris Bhakti study, where the lab rats live 90% longer, and we supplied the product, which was exactly what's in this bottle, ESS 60 and olive oil. And a lot of
Yeah.
people have noticed our olive oil is really strong. It's got this peppery, really high quality taste. The lab's buying it from the same farm for a long time because we guarantee our products are going to taste the same every time. And if you're buying from Costco, which I've seen some of those companies that are online, you're going to have cheap olive oil and you won't have any taste. Chris mentions that sometimes when you go to a fine restaurant, not so fine, they pour the olive oil on your salad and a little pepper they crack in it so that it would taste like good olive oil. And that's what we have in this bottle.
Yeah, well, C60 EVO, this was another question. So there's so many companies popping out of the woodwork now. You know, there's some over in France, there's some in Spain, and they call themselves like C60 France or something. But yours being C60 EVO ESS 60. So with all this industry just kind of seemingly coming out of the woodwork, I mean, where's the industry standards or the regulation, or is there worldwide regulation or American specific regulation? I mean, how's all this going out? Because it seems to be catching on fire now. It's sweeping in individual nations across the planet. But this was the thing about with all this companies springing up, uh, how is this regulated?
Well, one, in terms of regulation, if you're talking about a global regulation, there isn't anything really other than us and the standard of ESS 60, right? So again, we started manufacturing this molecule in 1991, 4 years before the scientists actually won their Nobel Prize. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that us supplying material to scientists around the world helped facilitate them getting awarded the Nobel Prize, right? So that's like we've been here from the beginning. We actually provided the material in the original study, and we're actually mentioned in that original study. That was a study out of the University of Paris that proved our product, really ESS 60, extended the life of test subjects by 90%. There is a product out there that's supercharged C60. I don't even know what supercharged C60 means, but when you read the description, I come to understand that it's what we would call nano onions, we being people who have been in this industry for 30 plus years. Nano onions are great in motor oil. Like we've got a friendly competitor who has sold hundreds of gallons of nano onions and motor oil. It does not have any toxicity data, nor does it actually have any data in any test models, test animals, whether it's rat, mice, whatever, worms. There is no studies with this so-called, well, we'll call it what it is. It's nano onions. It's not supercharged C60. So that's another one. There is a group out there selling water-soluble C60. So what happens with the consumer, this is a great question, is you start getting into the C60 space and you start becoming aware of all the marketing that's happening around stuff that has not been proven to safe. To be safe. I would not put nano onions in my body. I would not put water soluble C60 in my body. And if it's black, right, it does go the raw powder. When you take this ESS 60 molecule, which is comprised of 60 carbon atoms, and you hold that powder in your hand, it's of course black because it's carbon. But when you dissolve it into any sort of oil, it actually dissolves. It doesn't stay black because it's actually dissolving. It's kind of like if you put sand in water, it's not going to dissolve. You put sugar in water, it is going to dissolve. So there's so many things to be concerned about. And honestly, if you know the story of how we ended up in this industry, that paper gets published in 2012 where the test subjects given our molecule lived 90% longer. In mid 2013, we start getting phone calls of crazy, wacky biohackers, and I can call them that because I now am one, saying, how much should I consume? We actually said none, right? Because we're conservative scientists. The literature was clear that it was safe, but we're used to selling it to research institutions around the world. It was another 5 years before we actually got into 4 years before we actually got into the market and decided to start selling this molecule. We didn't want to get there. And a lot of the reason is because the supplement industry is a challenged industry, and it's honestly been really disappointing to see how quickly C60 has just been a money grab for so many people.
And I'm happy to elaborate on that because I'm watching the market. They're watching the lab and moving the science forward, which we're the only lab that's actually still doing research on these fullerenes.
And publishing. Yeah.
And publishing, yes, those findings. What I find highly important to myself right now, I think that we're all being so tested with everything they're putting in the food, the air, the water. When you put something this pure in your body, and when they talk about carbon, we are carbon based. What a brilliant thing to be putting pure ESS 60 into our systems. And when I started with Chris, it was because this product saved my life.
This is Mysteries in the Histories. Over a period of 6 weeks in 1994, the small town of Oakville, Washington was hit with a bizarre string of storms that rained weird gelatinous blobs all over the town. And then people started getting sick. This is the weird and still unsolved mystery of the Oakville blobs. It began raining the clear gelatinous goop on the 7th of August. No one knew where it came from or what it was. The blobs contained similar-looking white cells as humans. People in the town who had contact with the blobs began feeling sick and scared a few hours later. Residents in the small city reported that what fell from the sky was not water, but gooey, slimy, clear and translucent blobs the size of a grain of rice. Over the next 3 weeks, in an area measuring 20 square miles, there would be 5 more events of the terrifying ooze raining down on unsuspecting citizens. There were reports of people developing flu-like symptoms from contact or proximity to the blobs, even of animals dying. The very day of the raining blobs. So what was it? And was it making people sick? A sample of the Oakville blobs was sent to the Hazardous Material Unit at the Department of Ecology of Washington State. Once received microbiologist Mike McDowell found 2 species of bacteria in the Oakville blobs, stating one of these was known to infect the human digestive system. But scientist Mike Osweiler of the Washington State Department said they found a number of cells of various sizes and 2 types of bacteria in the blobs, but were unable to identify them. They did, however, note that the cells did not have nuclei. This was significant because it refuted previous claims that the blobs contained human-like white blood cells, which do have nuclei. So what were the Oakville blobs? One theory is that it was jellyfish or parts of jellyfish dispersed into rain clouds by bombing runs carried out by the Air Force. Another theory, fluid waste from an airplane toilet, but the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration pointed out that this would have been blue, not translucent. Still another theory is that of an example of panspermia, an event dropping the unknown cells down upon the Earth. Panspermia is the hypothesis that life exists throughout the universe, distributed by space dust, meteoroids, asteroids, comets, and maybe even clouds of raining blobs perhaps. What if it was fluid waste from a UFO or UAP toilet? Just think about that for a minute. Ever since the 14th century, there have been reports of a substance very similar to the blobs in Oakville being found elsewhere, called star jelly, astral jelly, or astromyxin, named after the legend that it falls from the sky during meteor showers. What if the blobs never rained in the first place, that they emerged from a more earthly plane? This would require overlooking the witness statements of those who saw the blobs fall. But it has been a theory. All the original uncollected blobs have long disappeared, and there are no known remaining samples of the Oakville blobs, including at the Washington Department of Health. They apparently have no records of ever receiving any, but allegedly. The Washington State Department took all known samples and somehow misplaced them. Inter alia, frog spawn, sodium polyacrylate crystals or algae have been the source of other blob events. However, there are many unexplained instances of the raining goop, including in 2013 when slime was found at the Ham Wall Nature Reserve in Somerset, England. Despite sending samples for DNA testing to the Natural History Museum, just like in Oakville, no conclusion was ever reached or explanation given. Raining blobs of Oakville is another one of the great mysteries in the histories. Sign up to our show notes email list and get access to longer episodes of Mysteries in the Histories just for signing up. Signing up for the show notes, you get behind-the-scenes thoughts and points we sometimes can't relay over social media platforms. Brought to you by ITM Trading. ITM Trading has spent the last 28+ years developing a team of expert researchers and gold and silver analysts to make this possible. Simply put, we build strategies which are historically proven to protect your wealth and assets through any economic downturn. 866-834-1422. That's 866-834-1422.
It came out of his lab. Some odd person gave me the sample, but how wonderful that I ended up reaching Chris and Robert, because I realized the strength of it, and the ESS 60 brought me through. So when I came around again and realized, I'm young, it's time to do something serious. What do I want to do? I used to make UFO movies about crop circles. That was really fun. So I left the industry because it became an industry rather than a field of research. And now in the ESS 60 world and the carbon 60 world, two different things like this level and this level, I'm seeing the same thing, this infiltration of darkness, of just greedy, wanton, but you've got an industry also where you can buy your likes. You can buy your reviews on Amazon. You can buy your numbers on YouTube, their impression of self. And I think our industry is full of that now. And for that reason, Chris was really strict with me when we became partners, that he had this astral dog collar, that he'd have the remote in Texas. And every time I'd slip and say C60, he'd, we would just joke about it, or I'd have to put a quarter in the swear bar, swear bank. But it's only because we've left that industry behind. And the reason for our name C60 Evo is that the ESS 60 is the evolution of the carbon 60 fullerene molecule. It's called the miracle molecule since the 90s, and it's because it has incredible properties at every application. But Chris and Robert didn't realize they'd be selling facial serum and lip balm and work with a woo-woo girl that used to make UFO movies. So, life throws us in wonderful, wonderful ways, but this is the greatest chapter of my life. Wow, stories of what's happening today. I'm sorry, can I just say, I woke up this morning and I looked at my local paper. There were people, now this is nature. This is Mother Nature saying how she feels. But this couple was driving up the canyon in the mountains, and their kids and grandkids were in the car behind them. The couple was on a motorcycle. A deer ran out from the woods, knocked their bike over. They went down the cliff, but a deer knocking over a moving motorcycle with the whole family behind. We are being so tested. To me, that was like really extreme. Oh my God, nature? Like, why would a deer run and jump on a motorcycle that's rolling down the canyon? Shocking, shocking. But I think that if humans don't start listening, the wildlife is going to start yelling. That to me was a yell. I just feel like the earth is saying to us, get with it. And when I used to make films about crop circles, the earth was saying, get with it, because those messages were coming out of the earth. They weren't from the sky or some military satellite, maybe the fake ones, but not the real ones. They're coming out of the earth because the earth has been speaking to us and all the others flying around us forever. And it's really a wake-up time. And in my opinion, I've never seen such a medication as this, a spoonful. It's so easy every morning, and I'm cooking with gas. And I've been tested more than any of my friends. They've been scared of what I went through, but it's like that is so in the past. The present is me, Chris, Robert, making a product that is going all over the world every week. And this is the big bottle. This is what I keep here at the house, because you never know when UPS and the post office is going to shut down. So stock up on Evo.
Which brings me to the next point here. That is going to take the next generation to be born and then come up through this. So C60 EVO, can you take that when you're pregnant?
Yeah, the intelligent answer to that question, like from a scientific perspective, is it's too early, right? So pregnant and nursing women should not be taking this, and young children should not be taking this. I'll share with you, there is no data to suggest any adverse effects, but that is such a formative period that current recommendation is no.
So then a lot of people are talking about these last few years here, parasites in the body, that sort of thing. C60 EVO ESS 60 can remove parasites, yes or no? That's my own question, thinking about it. That just kind of dovetails right onto that with the
I
body
think
and things that you can put in, or if it could extract something or cause something to flee your body. Yes, no?
Yeah, so I think with parasites specifically, I would say there's no data to support it. When you start thinking about other types of detoxing, right? Whether it's binding to heavy metals, there is a good possibility, and I think Patty has some solid testimonials, and we do too. Like a lot of people come back to us as customers and like, I felt really bad for a day or two, and I think I was detoxing, and then they come out of that feeling so much better. But in terms of parasites, there's no data to suggest that this is good for parasites. Patty, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, my issue wasn't parasites necessarily, it was uranium. I had a evil person put uranium in my garage for round two of let's get rid of Patty. And so I was really sick. I lost 25 pounds, didn't know it was in the garage, didn't know what was wrong with me, got out of the house, started taking this. And I had to change my clothes every 2 hours, like wringing wet. The detox was so hard, so fast, but it was from heavy metals. When I was in the emergency room and did the blood test, it was uranium, strontium, cadmium, arsenic. Nice guy. And I survived, but barely. And again, I take this every day. And for me, when the detox started, the sweat was unbelievable. And I wasn't doing, no, I was doing something else. I was doing essential oils on the bottom of my feet. So that on my feet, different oils, but who knew? Yeah, I don't know. And this. And the way I start every day, which I haven't mentioned, is the MCT coconut oil in my coffee. This is my morning treat. I do it every day. The olive oil I do on every show, like at noon, but I recommend to people take your products before noon because you'll get a lot of energy. When people say, oh, I took it at night, it's like, did you sleep? I don't take it at night. But the only time I would recommend it for night is if you're drinking heavily. It's a great hangover helper. So short of that, Chris can do a shot of this at bedtime, no problem, in a cup of coffee. I can't. So it depends on people's sensitivity, but taking it before noon will get you a beautiful day of energy all day long, incredible mental focus, most people notice, and then you'll sleep better at night.
Yeah, can I throw an old timers thing out here? If it's cold in the winter, you're talking about you put essential oils on your feet. You could put cayenne pepper in your socks and then put them on a cold, wet morning or a cold morning. Sprinkle a little bit of cayenne pepper in your socks and then put your boots on if you're going to be going outside, and that will absolutely heat your body up. Just an old timers trick, something that we need to learn our grandparents' ways. Now, detoxing is one thing to take out heavy metals from the body. And Chris, you were talking before about gut biome versus blood. And, I guess that's what I have there for the rest of the talking points here. But I know you did want to discuss that for a second, and I'm all ears because how many of us have absolutely wrecked our gut biome by ingesting all the foods that are highly processed? There's all kind of chemicals on it, all kind of, I wouldn't even say it's not fertilizer, more like herbicides, pesticides on top of the food that never was 100% cleaned off, and sometimes used as a drying agent in the modern agricultural world we live in. So it ends up in the final product going to the factories. We're just surrounded by it. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
So take
glyphosate.
me through that journey there.
Yeah, glyphosate is a problem, right? And you
I
want
didn't want to
to
mention it by name, but you
yeah. Well,
did.
that's the chemical, right? That's not even the particular brand, but it's I believe it's outlawed in Europe and has been for quite some time, and we still use it here. Our lobbies are better at moving money around, and so we still have these things that are part of our farming processes, which is a really, really, really sad state.
Now, Chris,
Um,
could I say GMOs are also outlawed in many countries in Europe, not entirely everywhere, but far more than a handful. No GM crop can be grown there with the traditional Sargenta type seeds.
So GMO, I think, will be. We don't know exactly. So at first, my logic with GMOs were this is a good thing because we're making more food. And then I came to understand what they're actually doing when they're modifying these foods. And what they're actually doing to them is they're making them more insect resistant. And another way to think about that is they're making it more live creature damaging. And we happen to be live creatures. And so these GMOs tend to actually cause more inflammation, is my understanding. And that's why in the past, used to say like GMOs were good. I think that there will be things that we can do with modifications, but we have a long way to go to understand what we're messing with. Currently, the GMOs are better at disrupting the functions of live creatures. That's not something you want in your body. So I now stay away from GMOs. And then, yeah, and they're outlawed in a number of countries, and I think that's probably the right approach. When it comes to detoxing, a lot of people talk about how do I get these toxins, whether they're heavy metals, whether they're mold toxins, out of their system. But then they often talk about taking something that is like diatomaceous earth that is actually known to not be able to get into your bloodstream, right? So there's a model of the human that I think is really valuable. We've all seen like a pool noodle, right? And if you were to roll a marble through a pool noodle, you would not say that that marble got incorporated into the noodle, right? It just went through the path, was it? Well, from our mouth to our anus, we're a pool noodle, and it's not until it gets through our gut lining that it now becomes incorporated to us. So if you've got these heavy metals, these toxins in your gut lining, and you want to detox them, you really need to be taking something that can get into your body. A lot of these diatomaceous earth, that's actually a solution. If that's going to be a solution, just know the solution isn't because it's getting into your system. It's not becoming part of the pool noodle that you are. It's actually just detoxing the tube that runs through the pool noodle, right? Um, that's where ESS 60 is a little bit different because we do know that it gets into the body. We did studies with the University of Houston where it was as good or better than activated charcoal in absorbing toxins, right? In this case, it was different solvents. And so we know that it can be valuable and can actually get inside your system, can be incorporated into the pool noodle and pull and potentially pull those things out. So I think I'm actually about to do a deep dive. It's something that I want to understand a lot better, about to send my hair off to get a test to understand my heavy metal, where I am at with heavy metals. The other thing that we briefly touched on, and I thought was worth mentioning, was sublimated, right? So this is in the context of the 99.99 and the 99.95. There's companies out there that are saying our product is sublimated, so it's never been exposed to toxins. And my first response is, well, our product was exposed to toxins. Our product was used in the original study. We're mentioned in the original study, and those test subjects lived 90% longer than the control group. What do you think you're going to accomplish by, even going down the path of removing whatever minimal amounts of solvents might be present? Like it's a useless journey. On top of that, we've purchased all of the sublimated C60, again, kind of industrial products, but all of the ones that are sublimated, that are claiming to be solvent free. We tested them from solvents, 4 solvents, and all of them actually have more solvents than ours. And there's there's 4 ways you could sublimate and get a pure C60. By the way, all of these ways are really expensive because they tend to waste C60. The sublimated products on the market you tend to waste 50% of the material. So the sublimated products at a minimum should be 50% more expensive. They are not. That tells me that this is not a real sublimation process. They're actually doing a marginally good job of baking these C60 powders. And then the company that's buying them from the company that's promising them that they're selling them sublimated, never exposed to solvent C60 doesn't know how to test it, and so really can't dive in and understand that they're not getting a solvent-free C60. As near as we can tell, at least in North America, it does not exist.
But for me and my precious body, which it is to me, I'm only buying from the lab that knows what they're doing. And there are fake scientists out there that are selling this product. And that's why Chris made such a deal about really elaborating on the evolution to making it safe for humans and pets. Our pet testimonials are over the top. People are saying, my God, thank you for giving me another year with my dog. We thought we were going to have to put him down.
To c60evo.com. I'll put that right on the screen. /adapt 2030. Take 10% off your order. Choose your favorite. I personally like the olive oil myself. Gives me that boost of energy, focuses my mind throughout the day. And also, when I'm traveling, I try to at least take a couple of these with me, especially with the lip here, because the winds and the heat that's coming off and the UV and this sort of thing. I know it's not UV in there, but I find when I'm working on the field, or if we go for walks for a longer time, or if we're, leaving the windows open when we're driving, or going out to go fishing for a minute, that there's something different today with the sun and with the wind. And I used to get really dried out on my lips quite a bit, and then I like the peppermint a little better. But both of these, again, it's going to be a favorite's choice. I don't exactly know which one would be your favorite, so please try them all.
My pleasure. We love your audience. We love the comments that they make, and we offer a 20% discount if they sign up for a monthly subscription. You can save 20% off every order. Cancel by phone, email if you choose to, but most people don't. I did want to mention for people that travel, we also make the olive oil in capsules, because you can get a baggie of these on a plane, but you can't take a 4 and 8,
Yeah,
16,
you take this thing on.
bottle.
Somebody at TSA is going home with this, going, "Ooh, I got this today at the airport."
Yep. So take the capsules at that point. And we have amazing facial serum that you mentioned. There is something special about this. And it's that there's 21 natural, organic, vegan ingredients, and it smells like rosemary. It is so divine. And it's got a base of chia seed oil, which is why people notice right away. What we noticed is that when you're taking the oil inside and you're putting it on your skin, you're going to get a lot more benefit. So we sell an inside out kit, which is the olive oil and the facial serum. And there's inside out and lips if you want to do the lip balm also, different sizes of bottles. But those are my two favorites, and they're on your landing page. And if people want to see the rest of our products, just go to the bottom of the landing page to see the whole store. And you'll see pet products, other facial products, and a lot of testimonials. And testimonials, I think, are really important to your listeners. Do you want to offer your testimonial of what C60 Evo does for you? Because I think your people are going to want to know what it can do for them.
Yeah, for me personally, middle of the day dragginess or drowsiness doesn't really happen after I do, like using my beaker here, or if I take it in something else. It skips over that part of the day where I just don't feel drowsy during that time of the day when you generally want to, sit back and relax in the chair, maybe drift off for a minute, half hour. It passes me by. And then suddenly, you're into the latter part of the afternoon and it never even crossed your mind or your body that you need to take that rest break through the day. So that's personally for me. Everybody's brain and bodies operate differently, but on a personal level, trying to get focused to get my work done from start to finish, it works. Everybody, thank you for listening. Appreciate your time. And I really do hope you got something out of this. This is valuable information that we're trying to present here. And I'm glad I have two brilliant minds to get the answers that I'm also looking for in addition to all those questions. Thank you so much for those that were asking just general formats over the last couple of times that we've talked. So until next time, bye for now.
Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
We don't have to worry about not having food to last. We have my Patriot supply. And right now, you can save $200 on a 3-month food kit with Adapt 2030. Adapt and stay prepared.